when Metcalf came, that meant there is no future for George Pickens in Pittsburgh. So the question is, do we try to get through his contract year knowing that his target share is going to drop necessarily, or we're going to have chaos in the receiver room and on the practice field, or do we just get what we can now and move on? Because maybe there's a chance it's such a disaster in 2025 that when he becomes a free agent in 26, nobody signs him. Nobody. I mean, that's not unheard of. There's a chance he would have had such a bad year and had been one problem after another for the Steelers that he's radioactive when free agency rolls around. Then there goes your compensatory draft pick possibility for 2027. So I just think the Steelers were at their wits' end. They were never going to admit it. There have been multiple things said about how he needs to mature. And when you look at the grand scheme of things, primarily making a massive commitment to a stranger to the team, which is something the Steelers have never done in their existence.
Yeah, you're right. And that itself is a big warning shot. You're right. Yeah. Keep going. Keep going.
But again, it was weird because if it's going to happen, like you said, do it before the 2025 draft.
Well,
why are you doing it after? Get something that you can use, especially because we're hearing so much, the strength of the draft is in round 2 and 3. Then get a third-round pick this year.
That's exactly, Mike. That's exactly where my head was at, right? And with all the good receivers we know that were available in round 2 or 3 that I liked and that, other guys in the NFL, you saw, they picked them, whether it was New England with my Kyle Williams or the Texans with the Jalen Noel guy I loved out of Iowa State. I mean, there was guys there to be had. That's where I was surprised. And that's where you unpack Pittsburgh right now, and you go, okay, yeah, they got DK Metcalf. They got Pat Freiermuth. That's nice. Running back is Jalen Warren with Caleb Johnson, who they drafted out of Iowa, who's got some big play potential, right? But after that, you go, wait, so at receiver, okay, all right, we got Robert
Woods.
Robert Woods, right.
That's
He's at
What's
this
he
point,
got left in the tank?
Exactly. He's kind of career journeyman at this point in his career. You got Calvin Austin III, who's a little jitterbug slot guy, right, that they like, and I guess they're hoping he takes the next step. And then I think the other thing we got to look out for is that they're going to be hopeful for their draft pick last year in Roman Wilson out of Michigan, that he takes the next step. I loved him coming out of the draft. He was one of those, I think he ended up going in the 3rd round. Maybe it was the second.
Third
right?
round.
Third round. Right, but damn good player. And he played at Michigan. You know he's going to be pro-ready. He had some injury issues. But, yeah, by all due accounts, it makes me think they're going to lean on him a lot here, too, going into year 2 of his career.
He played in one game last year, 5 offensive snaps.
Yeah.
That's it. And it was never really clear. I think there was an ankle injury or something, but there was always like, where's Roman Wilson? Because they could have used him last year. That depth chart last year was crying out for help.
Right.
And they've got like Ben Skowronek and Scotty Miller, and they didn't draft a single receiver this year. We talked earlier this week that Amari Cooper is a potential arrival in Pittsburgh. And I think we may have even said on Monday if they trade George Pickens. But as time was passing, and especially once we got through the draft, it's like, I guess they're going to do this. And Aaron Rodgers has been the elephant in the room that's gotten most of the focus. By the way, I did have somebody call me yesterday and said, hey, you know what? You're right. He's waiting until after the schedule comes out. So that is still TBD, but the schedule comes out a week from today. At some point after that, Aaron Rodgers joins the Steelers with one less guy. And the problem is there's none of the Aaron Rodgers. But wait a minute. They can't bring in Randall Cobb, can they?
No, I don't think so. I don't think
that
so.
ship, I'm sure that ship is sailed. But Devontae Adams is spoken for. Alan Lazard redid his deal. I guess they could maybe trade for Lazard. I don't know. I don't know what you'd get for Lazard at this point. But, Chris, we know how Lazard is with Rodgers. I mean, Lazard away from Rodgers, no thank you. Lazard with Rodgers, okay. Maybe.
Know. Yeah, right. No, I hear you there. I certainly would wonder myself, too, in that situation. I think that's a possibility. I don't think it's going to be a huge deal to make that deal happen to get Alan Lazard from the Jets. But also, too, maybe it kicks the can on the guys we talked about as well the other day. Maybe it does kick the can on Amari Cooper or a Keenan Allen. I could see a Keenan Allen fitting in what Aaron Rodgers wants to do. He's got a little bit of that, almost Alan Lazard. I'm a bigger slot guy, really good route runner. I'll be where you want me to be all the time. That's what my game's all about. I could see that, and maybe they're just going to wait for the price tag to go down on those guys who were probably expecting a little too much. I wouldn't be shocked here, but yeah, I would think that somewhere they would be in the market for just a little more of an insurance policy at receiver, one more proven commodity. Because Robert Woods, yeah, it's up there in his career. He's had a few injuries. You're going to really depend on that. Ben Skwarnik, like you talked about, I mean, solid guy to have as far as your 5 or 6 receivers. He does special teams and all that. But again, are you going to formulate offensive plays around him? I don't know. Calvin Austin is a weapon, but I don't know if you can consistently depend on him to go, hey, we could get him 8, 9 catches every game and do that type of stuff with him. I'm not sure about that. I would think that they look for somebody a little more reliable or proven that way, especially with Aaron Rodgers coming into town.
I got an email from a reader who makes a good point.
Yeah.
When we saw video of Aaron Rodgers throwing with a Steelers receiver, who was he throwing with?
Wasn't he throwing to
He was throwing with DK.
DK,
He was
right.
throwing with DK,
Yeah, right.
Wasn't throwing with George Pickens.
Right.
We don't know and won't know unless Aaron Rodgers puts him on blast whether or not any effort to reach out to George Pickens, get to know George Pickens, get together with him. And I don't know. They may live and train on separate sides of the country. But if Rodgers, in trying to make a connection with Pickens, came to the conclusion that, DK's my guy between the two, I'd like to think, if there's any truth to the idea that the Steelers know this is happening and Rodgers is just waiting for the right moment to do it, maybe there was some due diligence that was done that got Rodgers to the point where he was on board with making the change, especially if they can get Lazard. I'm telling you, the more I think about this now, that we're just having a chance to talk it through and spin it forward, I will not be surprised if they end up with Alan Lazard, because you look at that depth chart, it cries out for help. And what you're going to get Keenan Allen, you're going to get Amari Cooper, or you're going to get a guy who has a proven track record of playing well with Aaron Rodgers.
No, I hear you there. I think the only thing I come back to, and I could certainly see Pittsburgh wanting him, Rodgers wanting, is just, the Jets want to give him away. The Jets are a little bit in the similar situation where they don't have a ton of proven commodities at receiver either.
But it stinks when Rodgers isn't there.
I know.
I'm sorry. I know that sounds disrespectful, but when Rodgers doesn't play, he does nothing.
Yeah, well, he's a little bit more system dependent, and he's one of those guys too where, because he's big, he doesn't need to be wide open. So somebody with a strong arm and unbelievable accuracy, Aaron Rodgers just goes, oh, he's open by half a foot, he's big, I'll just put it away from his frame, he'll go get it. Where a lot of other quarterbacks are like, oh, I don't know, my arm's kind of weak, I don't want to fit that one in there, and it doesn't happen as well. Let alone, I think he's system based a little too, and that's where Rodgers loves him. But he's a big receiver. He has been a pretty good team guy no matter where he goes. He blocks. He does stuff like that, where I could see the Detroit regime in New York going, hey, we kind of like him for this year and what he might do for our team. And like I said, they don't have a real stellar wide receiver core there either. So again, I hear your point. I'm with you. I don't know here. I don't know.
He was a healthy scratch multiple times in his season when Rodgers had the Achilles tear. His first year with the Jets. They gave him that $10 million a year contract, which is hardly top of the market, but still was fully guaranteed for a couple of years. And he was a healthy scratch by the time we got into November and December, because he wasn't doing anything for that
it's a
offense.
dropping the ball.
I don't mean to be disrespectful, but with Rodgers, he performs at a very high level. And I could see at least an attempt to try to get him away. Now, I was surprised when they did a deal for him to stay put with the Jets, but it could be the precursor to getting a late-round draft pick or a pick swap or something like that in exchange for Alan Lazard. But they have to do something. They can't just remove George Pickens from the depth chart, and you look at who's left. We've gone over the names. The Steelers need someone. They need something beyond DK Metcalf. Robert Woods isn't enough to be number 2. They need a number 2. Lazard would be a great number 2, to the point where maybe Lazard gets the ball a little bit more than the number 1 does, and you got to be careful there. But from DK's standpoint, he's not going to be upset. He's getting paid. The Steelers are the ones who have to justify this massive contract they gave to DK Metcalf. Now, from the Cowboys' perspective, and apparently we got a hint. It isn't the kind of hint that really anyone was going to say, aha, George Pickens. But there was a little GIF posted by CeeDee Lamb and I can't remember what's his character's name. It's not Nelson Muntz. Nelson Muntz is the bully, right?
I'm not gonna.
What is his? Oh, Ralph Wiggum. Ralph Wiggum. Me fail English? That's impossible. Ralph Wiggum. Chief Wiggum's son. That's CeeDee's tweet from about 8 hours ago, waving, as it turns out, not to Nelson Muntz, but to George Pickens.
And again, more proof on this is how these guys communicate.
Yeah.
So when they follow,
I mean, if you're going to scoff
that's
about this stuff, just
right.
you're making yourself look like a moron if you're going to scoff about it, because that's the easiest way to communicate.
Right.
But I'd like to think by now it's like we've shown you how the microwave oven works. We've demonstrated it. And it's a proven commodity. We've put the cold food in, we've pressed the button, the hot food has come out, and you've eaten it. If you refuse to use it now, you're dumb. You're just dumb. You prefer your leftovers cold because you know how it works, you know how it operates, you've had the food, and you still choose to look at it and sneer. That is the modern day equivalent, or the old-time equivalent, to the folks who look down their noses at the messages sent all the time by players on social media.
No, exactly. Yeah, it's still hard for, I think, anybody of our generation to get our head around it a little bit, and the fact that that's how they do communicate, whether it's DMs on X or Instagram or Snapchat or whatever. It is a new world out there, and yeah, I mean, I'm a little oblivious to it as well. But thank God I got kids that are younger, and because of them, and I see what they're doing and how they live their life. I'm aware of it, and I'm certainly aware that that's how they communicate. So yeah, that was a telltale sign. Very funny by CeeDee Lamb, and I'm sure he's excited. I'm sure he is, because he's already got his spot in Dallas to go, like, I'm the man here. I know that. They love me. They're paying me a boatload of money like I'm one of the 2 or 3 best receivers in football. This ain't going to affect me. And in a lot of ways, I think he's going to look at it and go, this will be great, because maybe now when we play some of these good teams, the focus of the whole secondary won't just be on me. There'll be another guy that scares them a little bit to where they won't be able to double me or take me away in every big situation. And I think that's where CeeDee Lamb can find value with George Pickens across the field from him.
They still need a running game, though.
Yeah, I know.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.